Okay, welcome back to the Caribou Media Outdoors podcast. With me today is Travis Sloan from Outdoors with Travis. How's it going, buddy?
Good on you, brother.
Good, man. Thanks for jumping on here. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself and where you're calling in from.
Awesome. So, 28 years old. Me and you have connected because I've got a YouTube channel all about bow hunting, gear reviews, and all that kind of stuff. So, dead smack in the same niche or hobby or passion. And we're calling in from South Africa.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the first video that popped up for me of yours was I think you were comparing 3 or 4 bows, like the Elite Ethos. I think it was like
Alpha
about
X.
yeah.
And I think the PSE Evolve, all the 33 axle to
The
axles.
33, that's right, the 33s. And then you landed on the Elite Ethos, which I've got right behind me here. What did you what did you think of that one?
Look, obviously we are not, well, I'm not sponsored by any specific brand, so I get to play around a lot. 2024 I've hunted with 7 different bows. I've taken multiple animals with 7 different bows.
Wow.
And there was just something about that ethos that felt like I was shooting on easy mode. I remember I was filming the 2000 grain arrow, which was honestly just for shits and giggles. There was nothing practical about that arrow build, but we thought let's push the limits. And on the same day when I'd finished that video, which was an 80-pound PSE Omen, went over to that Elite Ethos, which is a 70 pounds. Everything was set up perfectly for me, and it just felt like I was shooting a bow with some kind of cheat code attached to it. I am enjoying the new RX9 and the AX2. I'm busy running the AX2 now. Haven't had an animal yet. I've had some very bad luck with that bow in my hands, but it's been user error. I've allowed my fitness and all that kind of stuff to go down the drain because I've been so busy. So that's something I'm going to have to work on in the new year.
Yeah. I just loved you're always get attracted to the look of a bow first, right? And then so I love the riser design, and then when I shot it, it was so quiet. It was just like a pop. Like it doesn't sound like any other bows I've ever shot. It's just it's got like this unique, very quiet pop to it when you shoot. And so I was on the line at TAC at the practice range at the Total Archery Challenge, and a guy said that, "Is that an Elite?" I know what that sound is. He's like, "It's very quiet. I used to have one." But then like my first bow was a Hoyt Helix Ultra. I was in 2019, and it had a little bit of a dump to it when you drew back, and the back wall was a little squishy. But when I was at TAC, I got to shoot the Alpha X, and they've done so many changes over the years in such a short amount of time to those bows and those cams to really make it like a pleasing shot for sure. Do you prefer?
I must say, one thing that I noticed is like the aesthetics don't seem to be changing that much, especially between the Alpha X and the AX2, which is, but when it comes to performance, I've been building these bows for guys. I've been shooting them myself. And for someone with a shorter draw length that doesn't get the performance out of any bow because it's 27.5 inches, I was getting about 15 feet per second faster on that AX2 from the Alpha X that I was shooting beginning of the year. So with the exact same arrow build. So yeah, it's quite nice. Tuning it was awesome because there's no cam lean whatsoever with that yoke system that I wouldn't say they brought out, but they've introduced to their bows again. Obviously, lots of other manufacturers are using it, but yeah, it's been nice. It's quite nice to do all the different bows and put them against each other. I think the one thing that Elite has going for is that dead stop position on the cam. There's just no sponginess on the back wall whatsoever. So you can pull that thing as hard into the face as possible up, and you're not focusing that hard, and you're more focused downrange on the animal. You're not pulling too hard that it's going to affect your trajectory or impact point.
Yeah, and there's two versions of the back wall, 2 hardnesses you can choose from too on the cam, which is pretty cool. Do you prefer one over the other, the AX2?
I honestly haven't. Oh, but sorry, between the AX2
and the RX9.
They both have their advantages. Obviously, the RX9 Ultra is a 34, but the AX2 32 is the one that I'm shooting now. So axle to axle, it's hard to compare the two.
Mm,
I'm a guy that does like weight. I do enjoy weight. And so I either go, the weird thing is I go extremes. I'll either go super short axle to axle on a carbon bow and treat that as my like nimble in the thick stuff. Yeah, in South Africa can get very, very, very thick. And so to maneuver a big bow becomes tedious. So I must say, either I go for a 30 axle to axle like the RX8 or the RX9, and I'll still go heavy stabs and keeping all that weight below the hand, or I'll go like a 33, 34 and just muscle through, knowing that I can pull that thing in the wind or anything like that, and I can execute the shot.
mm.
So it really is
Eh,
just it actually depends on the landscape. I must say, recently I've
yeah.
started building bows depending on where I'm going to hunt, simply because I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can do that now. But Botswana, I knew I was going to be walking in the thick riverine forest. I knew I was going to be getting on all fours most of the day trying to get through that thick stuff. So I knew I'd want to go for a short axle to axle bow and a light bow because I was going to be walking for long hours. So
Hmm.
then I did the RX8. And then that RX9 Ultra, it didn't really matter because they're in Eastern Cape where I'm hunting so much recently. It's just mountains and mountains and mountains, and there's very thick stuff as well, but you can kind of avoid it or work around it. So then I don't really mind the size of the bow. I'll make it work.
Nice. And how does the whole tag system work over there? Do you for your animals?
So funny enough, I was actually just chatting to James from Bow Disciples.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Bow Disciples.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're gonna come down and hunt with me and Elan's River Safaris in Feb. And so he was asking the same thing because I'm just not even. I know that you guys have a tag system, but as for
Mhm.
us hunting, yeah, it's just there's the most important thing to know about hunting. Let's say South Africa, because that's where I live and I'm used to it. The laws aren't very regulated, and all hunting is privatized. There's not a single bit of public land hunting in South Africa.
Ah, okay.
If so if you want to hunt, it's on a guy that either comes from generational wealth that's had the farm over 6 7 generations. You're looking at some of the guys are having over 200 300,000 acres. So 30 40 50,000 hectares, and they own
Oh.
it. And they own all the species that are on it, but then it's high fence. But I know high fence probably has a bad stigma for the guys that like public land on your side, but on our side, you cannot hunt in South Africa without a fence because everything is privately owned.
Mhm.
But in saying that, I mean, when I was hunting in Botswana, it took 40 minutes to drive from the one side of the guy's property to the other on a dirt road.
Yeah.
So you can't even walk that in a day if you have a bow in the hands and trying to stalk and all that kind of stuff. So there's zero tags. I was just telling to James now, it's insane. You can walk the bush. I get 6 to 10 stalks in a session
Wow.
because I can shoot any species I want as long as it's on the price list and as long as we have agreed with the landowner what can be shot, what can't be shot. And if it's out of season, then you don't bring international hunters, but then they normally let guys like myself that are going to help them market the farm or something like that hunt males only. So you're not shooting any pregnant animals or anything like that. And
Mhm.
so I can hunt all year round in South Africa with, just some permission from landowners.
That's amazing. Just want to take a quick break to talk to you about a couple of things that I've been using that I think might benefit you. One is this Numa Outdoors gear. This is in their Kaza OV pattern, which is great whitetail pattern when you're up in a tree in the fall and late season. They also have a Kaza pattern which has more green in it, which is good for spring through to the fall. Numa has given me a code to give to you of Caribou Media 20, which will save you 20% at checkout. Another product here that I've been using for years now is the Bulldog targets. This is a Canadian made target. They're made in Manitoba. They have a lifetime warranty. I've used that warranty twice now on a couple of my larger targets that are outside. It's very simple, very easy. These targets are 2-finger removal every single time, which is incredible. Field point only target. Bulldog's been gracious enough to give me a 20% discount code to give to you at checkout. Use code BD20-Caribou-Media. That'll save you 20% on these awesome targets. Now back to the show. Yeah, so what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these high fence properties are so big that sometimes the animals won't get to the other side of the property. Like it's such a large area that, it's not like they're running around bouncing into each other. The like you said, the land masses are so big that whether there's a fence there or not, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, Botswana, because of regulations, his property is actually on the border between Botswana and South Africa. And the Limpopo River splits the two countries apart. And by law, he has to have a fence on the river.
Mm.
And so what I do is he owns everything up until the river itself, the water. So I tend to hop that fence and then work the forest along the river. And I think it took me 6 hours to cover something like 5.5 kilometers. So let's say 3.5 miles. And I think we checked it on our watches. We're walking 600 meters per hour.
Wow.
So you're going so slow and you're stalking and you're stealthy that there's just no ways you can cover large masses of area or large areas.
Hmm. And I noticed you had a lot of success with the Severs. Did you have a favorite Sevr Broadhead that you were using?
I had a bit of a flop on my last hunt. I didn't film it. I was actually working and hunting at the same time. But I tried to run the 2.0 on a lighter arrow setup, and I took an 87-yard shot. Landed perfectly on a blessed buck, but it got maybe 1 inch penetration, like just under the skin, enough for the arrow to stick into the animal. And so that wasn't fun. But for me, I've never lost an animal with a 1.5.
Yeah.
I think I did the stats the other day. It was something about 160 animals over 3.5 years with a 1.75 all-purpose, and then I transitioned when they brought out the titaniums to the 1.5. Never lost an animal with them. I'm enjoying the hybrids, but something about the African game is that I've noticed is that they are just tough. And so, no matter what, if you're hunting out of a hide, you can run a lighter arrow and you can wait for the animal to be perfectly broadside, and then you execute a nice shot with zero resistance or minimal resistance. But when you walk in and stalking and you get, you work with the cards that are dealt to you, I just realized heavier arrow, smaller cutting diameter broadhead, so it can one punch through the bush, or if something obstructs it, or if it hits something hard, it can still punch through because there's minimal resistance. So my favorite right now, I've tried all of them now, the 1.75, the 2.0, the 1.5 hybrid. I do like the 1.5 hybrid, but there's just nothing that I trust more than the 1.5 titanium.
Nice. What kind of an arrow setup are you using? Do you switch between animals, or do you usually keep one setup?
So what I actually started doing now is I don't switch arrows because I sight in meticulously for that specific build.
Yeah.
But what I started doing now is running a quiver with different severs. So I tell myself, if it's going to be a small animal like a dacre, which, to anyone that doesn't know a dacre, it looks like a baby whitetail, essentially. It's literally, its back is no taller than the height of an average person's knee. And that's a fully grown animal. So if I'm going to shoot something like that, vitals are small and the chances of losing it are big. I'm going to go for a 2.0. The shot's going to generally be under 40 yards. And I want to make a big wound channel. Again, this is all perfect world scenario, making these decisions nice, clean, and clear during the situation. But then when it's further out, or if it's a tougher animal, then in my quiver, I've got a 1.5 and a 1.5 hybrid. So I tend to have a 6-arrow quiver and 2 of each. And then I just make the decision based on the situation that's presented.
Well, what kind of total arrow weight are you usually running?
Right now, so the light arrows that I built were 460 grains.
Okay.
It was Eastern Axis 5 mil with the Eastern collars. It's their competition grade that normally come with the 001 arrows, but I managed to obviously score them from the shop. Total arrow rate 460, 465 around there. Thinking that I was going to get the speed and then more distance out of the arrow. But rule of thumb is stick with what's worked for you for the last couple of years. And for me, that's that 550 to 580 grain arrow,
Mhm.
which sounds crazy to some people. But 27.5 inches, 70-pound bow, I still get 100 yards on the side tape. So I still can reach distances with it. But I've done full pass-throughs at 80 yards on stuff like zebra, which is a very thick, dense, and tough animal. I've done almost pass-throughs on frontals on a wildebeest, which is also a very thick and dense animal. Um, and then you'll see, obviously, all my latest Impala shots for some reason are landing up to be those high frontals with the necks down kind of shot. But yeah, once again, don't fix something that's not broke. I
Right.
learned my lesson on this last hunt, and I'm going to just go straight back to what's working for me. And there's guys, don't get me wrong, there's guys in South Africa that are running 400, 450, 420s, and they're getting the work done. I just would like to argue that they're not taking the weird shots that I tend to take because I've walked for 3 days. We've clocked 40 kilometers
Yeah.
on foot. Our backs are sore. We're tired. We might need to go home in the next 5 hours. I'm going to take that shot, whatever's presented to me. Again, I'm not going to be shooting for bone. I'm always going for vitals. I'm never going to try and punch through a leg or something like that. But at the end of the day, I want to take a really weird shot and know that arrow's going to hit its mark.
Yeah, you've got a couple really cool videos that are like primitive survival where you go out for 24 to 48 hours with nothing, no food. You're just going to live off the land.
Yeah.
Those are, and they got a lot of popularity with those too. Those are really awesome. Did you have, do you do that regularly, or was that just an idea for a video, or what do you?
The problem with those is, well, now obviously not a problem. I've just started my business recently, which has opened up me to obviously, kind of handle my own schedule. So it's going to be a lot easier to get those in, but generally I needed 3 to 4 days to do them. And if you're working for a boss, that's a no-fly. You can't just be taking 3, 4 days at a time. So I've got one lined up probably in January. If I don't come to the States for the Rocky show in Billings, Montana, then I'm going to have a bit more time to execute on that survival hunt. But I'm going to try and get to at least one a month. I really dig them. And when you get to know me, you'll know that, like, I love hunting, I love putting food on the plate, I love filling the freezer, but I'm not shy to admit that I actually enjoy the hunt. I enjoy the adventure. I
Yeah.
enjoy stalking the prey. I enjoy really going back to roots as hunters and gatherers. And I'm not shy to say that sometimes I'm not killing for the freezer. It goes to people's plates and it feeds people, but the amount that we hunt, we would have to have an infinite amount of freezers
Yeah, right.
to say that we fill in the freezer. So I'm at the point now where I'm donating, I'm giving, I'm helping. Or what tends to happen is a guy lets me come hunt to do a video, and they keep the meat. The landowner keeps the meat
Okay.
for his family,
Mhm.
and then I've got a video and I get a hunt and I get to be in the bush for 3-4 days with no one around unless there's a cameraman.
Yeah, it's the whole experience, right? The whole adventure. That makes it fun. It's not just the letting the arrow go. It's about the whole picture,
Oh
right?
yeah, everything before and after.
Yeah. Did you work at that Magnum archery shop, or were you just affiliated with them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so Magnum has been a godsend, really, just an absolute blessing. A bit of background on me: my whole life, 6 years old, told my mother I was going to military, and at 14, I met a Royal Marine, and he kind of got it out of my head that it was tanks and guns and explosions and cool shit like you see in the movies, and he kind of was just like, for the first 5 years, it's going to be dog shit, and you're going to be treated like crap, and you're going to be humiliated, and you're going to be beat down to be built up. And for some reason, I didn't come out of the most perfect home, had an amazing mother, but it wasn't the easiest life. And for some reason, it just resonated with me. I don't know if I was trying to be something that I didn't have or whatever it was, but literally 6 days after finishing high school, I shipped off to the French Foreign Legion and said goodbye to family, friends, and even my wife now, today. We were still together back then.
Mm.
And short stint, unfortunately, got a medical discharge. Both my ankles blew out, and they weren't
Oh,
willing
man.
for. If I had an operation, I was going to be a base skiffy, and if I didn't have the operation, either way, I'd never be deployed. I was just taken off any kind of list that would get me deployed, and I don't know why, and I can't answer, but I wanted to deploy. I wanted to get some real life experience and be in some hostile environments. Came back to South Africa after that stint and immediately got into the close protection game, so bodyguarding. Ended up looking after guys like Saudi Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, looked after some very, very, very big and obviously high risk clients. And
Oh, wow.
that lasted for a while until we got into quite a nasty hostage situation court cases and all that kind of stuff, and that followed us home. They had to put bodyguards on my wife. It was pretty rough for quite a while, and we just had a discussion one night, and we just said, if we look at guys that are 20 years older than me, I'm their TL. I'm leading them. I'm running them. I'm drafting plans. So in 20 years, I'm going to be replaced by some young dude with more energy and more enthusiasm. So we realized that it's just not the long-term game. And so pivoting, but staying in the industry, I went into the corporate side of private security. Obviously, I don't know if you know, in South Africa, crime is a bit rough, and our police really just are underfunded. I don't even want to say are useless. The ones that are really good, you don't see. They're not the ones pulling cars over or doing traffic stops. They're actually doing operations, and they're just heavily underfunded and undersupported. And so the private security sector is massive. I mean, the police don't respond to break-ins. Private security does.
Wow.
Hostage situations, private security get there first and tend to deal with it before cops even get there. And so the private security industry is huge. So I pivoted, and during that pivot, I fell in love with marketing, got to learn about social media and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into photography, and then I got into videography, and then I started doing weddings on the side. And for the last 5 years, I worked at quite a big company on their board, running everything from brand strategy to marketing for them, 1,600 employees. But corporate life is not for the guys, that like us, that enjoy the outdoors and want to be in the bush and kind of want to go back to the roots. Well, for some it is. It just wasn't for me. And at some point I was just like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, like the two things I absolutely love, which is bow hunting and videography, or just being behind a camera. And then halfway through this year, I just decided, screw it, I'm gonna take a leap. My missus has got a sweet job. She's an architect. And we just
Nice.
both agreed, like, this is what we actually did. Is I hunkered down and carried the household for quite a while so she could finish her studies, a master's in architecture. And then we just decided, sweet, now it's my turn to take those kind of risks, and she'll back us if anything goes wrong. And so I approached Magnum and I said, I know this is completely weird, but what if I did this full time with you guys, doing videos and marketing, and clearly it's working. Guys are walking in the store and they know me and they know you guys.
Yeah.
And the owner, who is Seppi, just the most amazing dude that's changed my life, was like, well, you won't believe it. I actually wanted to have a call with you because I woke up this morning thinking the exact same thing, like, screw it, like, resign and let's make this thing happen. And that's how I ended up at Magnum. But I was only there for the last, like, I think it's like 4 months, maybe 4 months. And Seppi's been amazing. He every day he just reminded me, like, this is a stepping stone. You're not going to be here for long. You're destined for greatness. You're clearly entrepreneurial. He kept punting me and building my self-esteem. And yeah, about a month ago, I just decided, screw it. I've got the clientele, I've got the connections. Let's just register a business and make it happen. And it's so far so good. It's got some good traction. And now I work with Magnum on a consulting basis and not full time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I see. I just assumed you worked there when I was seeing you in all the videos in the shop. And yeah, I would just wonder if that's awesome. So going back to the beginning, like when did you first pick up a bow, and how did that kind of transition into bow hunting?
So, correctly speaking, the very first time I picked up a bow was probably like 10 years old. My brother D. McKendry was a very, very big competitive recurve archer. I think he even qualified for the Olympics, was it 2012, Tokyo? And then he blew out his shoulder. So yeah, he owned a club and everything here in South Africa. And he one day is like, just come shoot a bow. Let's see if you got a knack for it. And I loved it, but we didn't grow up in the most, financially free household, and there was just no finances to even buy a kiddie's bow, which
Yeah.
would have been like $50, $60 if you converted it, but we just didn't have the money. And that was my earliest exposure to it. Always loved it. I've been obsessed with it in terms of movies. I'm a big movie buff, and so Legolas and all those boys have been a big part of my childhood. And so 2019, my grandfather passes away. And during my lifetime, he didn't hunt, but apparently before my lifetime, he was a giant hunter. And just like me, on foot, but he was with a gun. But on foot, he wanted to walk for days at a time and get that one animal that was like, really stuck at the back of his head. And so when he passed away, and some stuff was brought up, and knives were given to me, and all that kind of stuff in the inheritance, I was like, I really want to, pick up that legacy. He also wasn't financially set, and that's why he couldn't hunt anymore. And I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do this, when I have kids one day, I want to pass down these skills, and I want to learn something that I had to learn myself. And, it wasn't passed down or forced upon me. But I was like, I don't want to do it with a gun. There was something in me that was just, especially because hunting is so readily available in South Africa, I was just like, it's going to be too easy. And I know that's going to piss people off saying that, but it really is just going to be too easy, especially from my background, coming from 5 to 7,000 rounds of ammunition fired per month. I'm going to sight in a gun. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to close a stalk in at 100 yards, and I'm going to smoke an animal every day that I go hunting. And I was just like, I really don't want that, because there's something in me. But no matter what video I make or anything, if I don't do it the right way, if I go and fake a survival video, if I fake a hunting video, I can't sleep at night. It bothers me because I'm not fulfilled. I've got a cool video, a banger video, whatever it is, but I'm not fulfilled because I wasn't challenged and I didn't overcome anything. So when I was making this decision, I came across everyone comes across the Cameron Haynes video with the elk over his shoulder as the thumbnail. And I think it was like a 70-yard shot in the mountains, in the trees. And yeah, I was just like, holy shit, why didn't I think of this earlier? Like, bow hunting is definitely for me. And then I knew I didn't want to go traditional, as I know it's difficult. I've got a bow, I'm trying, but I kind of wanted to relatively get into it quickly and get good at it quickly so I could see if this is even what I want to do. And so I picked up a dirt cheap compound bow, the Bowtech Fuel, which is like for ladies and kids and pretty much anyone that's starting out. It's a single limb dual cam. I think it was like 10 to 70 pounds or something like that. And trained hard with it, got good with it, and then went out for my first hunt. I'm actually in my godson room right now because we came here now for Christmas. And yeah, so he came with me. I think he was like 5 years old, 6 years old, and we got a springbuck on my first hunt. And then it was sealed. I sold that bow the next day. I think I got the PSE Evo NXT, which I think was 2020, which was their flagship bow.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went crazy. I was hunting at least once or twice a month.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was the same way with guns. Like, I went up to my wife's cousin owns 300 acres up north, and he said,
Beautiful.
"Oh, if you want to hunt, come up to the camp." So I bought a rifle and went up there, and he's like, "Go sit in that ladder stand and don't move and be quiet, and when it gets dark, walk out." So I loved being out there, but I didn't have the connection to the weapon. And again, like you said, it's not that I don't like rifles. I have rifles, but it just didn't feel right. And it wasn't until the following year when I bought the Hoyt and came up, and within an hour of being in the tree stand, a bear walked out and I shot it. And I was just like hooked from there. I was just because you're so close, you have to be so quiet, and just watching their mannerisms and everything, it was just lit a fire in me, right? So I was
That's beautiful.
I was set for life at that point.
Yeah, I think there's this idea that you really have to work for it. I mean, the bow is completely specified to you, right down to like peep height is got to do with your nose tip or point to your eye level, and draw length and poundage and arrows. Like, you're so involved with every step of the way, and then training. And then again with bow hunting, it's so much more intimate. You're up close. I do a lot of walking and stalking in South Africa, and you're walking 30 yards from a herd of animals that have no idea that you're there. And it's just this epic feeling of feeling like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And then I also like that an arrow is just so much slower than a bullet, because I feel like I'm a part of that release. I'm a part of that projectile that's making its way to my next kill or harvest. For me, with the guns, it's just bang and you blink because the shot's gone off, and then the animal's down, and you got to review the footage and hope you hit the right spot. And I don't know, to be honest. I shouldn't even be talking. I've never hunted an animal with a gun, and I'm kind of keen to have that, as a stamp over the next couple of decades, that I hunt everything with a bow.
Yeah. So is most of your hunting spot and stock, or do you ever go up in a tree in a saddle or anything like that? Does that even apply over there?
So in South Africa in general, a lot of the hunting is out of a blind or a hide.
Okay.
Simply because from a business point of view, to have, let's say, an American or a Canadian come down here and walk for 7 days and get one animal, it's just not conducive at all. And I mean, for the hunter who wants to come and experience Africa and only gets one animal, but also for the landowner who has put all the resources into helping this hunter get an animal, and he only comes off with the payment of one animal. So a lot of the hunting is out of a blind. And in general, it's 20 to 30 yards from the water hole or feed. And you sit in a very dark box, obviously shooting windows and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you guys, I've seen a lot of blind hunting on your guys' side as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then something that's not huge, simply because of like weight restrictions and physical capabilities and all that kind of stuff, is tree stands. But I'm obsessed. I just sat in a tree the other night with my godson for a couple of hours, and we spotted some dacre and all that kind of stuff, which was really cool. Something that I want to get into because it's a bit more portable, but lighter, and I can fit in my backpack, is saddle hunting. But that has zero traction in South Africa. If there's anyone that's saddle hunting, it's either on their own land and they've imported the gear from someone like Tethered or whatever to get the job done. There's just zero support for that at all.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've only ever I started in ladder stands, and just this year started doing saddle hunting. It's amazing because you have like almost 270 degrees around the tree. You can just get in any position you
Super
want.
flexible.
It's amazing. And being up high, it's nice to kind of be able to have an overall view of what's going on down below, which is pretty cool. When it comes to, you said everything's private over there. Can you give us an idea, like what would it cost for like a resident like yourself to go and hunt an animal on somebody's property compared to somebody from like a non-resident coming in? Do you know what those would
Yeah,
be?
so I mean, luckily I'm working with Eland's River Safaris right now, so that's fresh in my mind. I was just doing their price lists for 2025. So there's always any farm. Some farms are exclusively only for overseas clients, simply because they breed. Their breeding programs and animal management and all that is specific to producing beautiful animals, but then they cost a fortune and most locals can't afford it. So then they are specific to overseas guys. But pretty much every farm's got a local price list and then an international price list. Local price list, I mean, I don't know if guys would even understand it, but an impala, which is a very iconic African animal, or a springbuck, is normally about 2,000 to 2,500 rand. But if you had to look at an international prices, it would be between $400 and $500 to shoot that animal.
Okay.
So, but I mean, right now, I think I just did a package for ERS. I think they're running a special, something like $5,000, and you get 5 species, 7 nights, all meals included, 3 meals a day or whatever. So when a guy maybe covers his flights, I think I saw flights the other day for like $1,200 or $1,300 plus $5,000 and maybe some visas or whatever, is required. You're probably looking at about $6,500 to get down to Africa, including your animals, your meals, transportation to the farm, back to the airport, all that kind of stuff. So, I guess not everyone has that line around, but it is not horribly expensive as long as you're not going for the exotics. If you want to be shooting trophy kudu bulls and big buffalo, then you are going to pay $10,000 and $7,000 for an animal. But if you just want to enjoy Africa, the idea that you can walk among 17 different species on a property and you can shoot any one of them if you get close to them on foot, it's a different world for bow hunters. It really is. It's the gold mine for bow hunters.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's not very expensive at all compared to, some hunts over here can get up pretty high. So that's pretty good. Is there a memorable hunt from this year or the last couple of years that you wanted to share with everybody?
I must say, a weird one that most people won't understand unless I tell the backstory is a porcupine. And most people think of porcupine like the pets. It's like the size of your hand or whatever. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, you can shoot a picture up or something later on, but a porcupine is a giant, it's called a Cape Crescent porcupine. They literally, their bodies can get the size of a Rottweiler, but their legs are still stumpy. And they're just filled with quills that can get up to like half a meter or 0.75 of a meter. And so just giant creatures. And we bought a property, it's probably something like 450, 500 acres near a dam called Hartbeespoort here in South Africa. And we just dived into the history, because obviously South Africa has been colonized so many times over by the British and the Dutch and all that kind of stuff. And so we dived into the history, and we actually got hold of a book from the 1880. And this family that had owned the land that we bought from had owned it for the last 100 years. It had been
Wow.
passed on through 7 different generations. And they spoke about a cave that they hid their belongings in, or their valuable belongings, during World War One, because of the lack of communication, because it was a very underdeveloped area, farmlands. I mean, it would take something like 5 days to get into any kind of town on horseback. And that kind of stuff. So they told us about these caves, but they haven't been able to find them because the grandmother that knew them, or the great grandmother, had died. And so again, godson, this is his room. He's 9 years old now, and he's my little adventure buddy. He really he roughs it out with me, and we just decided, sweet, we're going to go up in the mountains. The property, to explain, the property is made up of 2 mountains in a very deep valley. I think total elevation is something like 400 meters on the property. So it gets quite high quite quickly. And so we just said, sweet, we're going to pack our bags and we're going to go walk this mountain range until we find the cave. And after a couple of days, we found it. But what we didn't expect is down in this cave was a family or community of porcupines. And at that time, there was only 2. And this was very early in my journey, where I just wanted to hunt. Everything was huntable. I just wanted
Right.
to be very honest, I wasn't thinking of conservation. I wasn't thinking of species population. I just wanted to be behind my bow and be in the bush. But that was the first animal that I was like, there's only 2, possibly male and female. I don't know what the population's like in the area. If I shoot one of them, I could be just completely killing the population in the area altogether. And so why it's so special is the first animal that made me think of the future, not just thinking of, oh, I can hunt, I can hunt, I can hunt. And so for the next 3 years, I watched them. I watched them grow. I monitored them on trail cameras. I hiked up every second or third weekend into the mountains, climbing into the cave. The cave is about 40 meters long inside, and it just narrow, it like gets more and more narrow as it goes. And yeah, I was just monitoring them. And about 3 years in, there was about 9 or 10 porcupine down at the bottom of that cave. And I was just like, sweet, I think it's more than ethical to, 3 years later, I've been monitoring them. I want to hunt one of these. And so I camped up in the mountains in the rain. I did one of my survival videos, actually, where I just camped up in the rain with no food, no resources. First night was a complete flop. I slept. So what I actually did is I worked 3 consecutive days at work to get the Friday off, so I
Right.
could get a Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a survival video. And so by the time I got to the property on Friday morning, I hadn't slept for about 48 hours or 56
Oh,
hours around there. And then I still got to build a shelter, get wood, make a fire. And so I lay down by the fire 7 o'clock in the evening when I'd finished everything, and I woke up 2 in the morning. And I went and sat at the cave. I can't see anything. I hadn't prepared like, how am I going to light up that space if I hear them, all that kind of stuff. And so first night I slept and I screwed it up. And I think it was the third night or the second night, I took some electrical tape, strapped a torch to my bow sight, and I just thought, wherever the bow sight is what I'm aiming at, and therefore the torch should be illuminating, the subject or the porcupine as well. And I just went and sat in the mud, just like it was pouring with rain, sat in the mud. And at about 7, 8 o'clock at night, after a couple of hours, it's freezing cold, it's midwinter, I could just hear, like what sounded like quills hitting against the rocks. And I could have sworn it was the only time I heard them. But by the time I switched on my light, there was just porcupine all over the mountain face. And I picked one out. I kept the torch on it, pulled back the bow. I think it was like 21 or 22 yards, because the valley was quite steep, but you're just shooting cross valley. And yeah, I made the shot. I slaughtered it in the bush, which was also very special to me because it was the first time I had to actually slaughter an animal in the bush, let alone a porcupine, which is a very difficult thing to slaughter.
oh, I bet.
And
Yeah.
yeah, funny enough, I've shot very incredible animals, but that porcupine I think it was the moment I became a hunter and not just someone that's trying to kill. And
hmm
and I think that's why the porcupine holds a special place for me.
That's cool. Is there any gear that you've come across in the last couple of years that you'll always take with you when you go out?
So I used to be a big chest rig guy. So like an Alaska guide or something like that,
Yeah.
marsupial, one of those. But I don't know how. The box was torn. everything was, it just looked like it had been returned, like someone was unhappy with it. But a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, I'm really struggling to get, when we walk in the African bush, we are literally sometimes leopard crawling, like completely flat, pushing the bow ahead of you, crawling to the bow, pushing the bow ahead of you, crawling to the bow. And so that chest rig would sometimes get in the way of me being able to get low. But also I've noticed that the plastic clips on any of these chest rigs for big guys like us tend to creak.
Yeah.
In the most quietest moments, you can actually hear a little creak on all those clips as you're moving and stretching through it. And so I was like, I really don't want that anymore, because half the time, if I get within 30 yards, that creak is going to blow me. And so, yeah, I came across this tiny little thing that just straps straight to the binos, and it's got an additional loop for the rangefinder. And it's literally just binos on chest with a rangefinder, no bag, no extra gear. And I'm a what if guy. So if you give me a bag, I'm going to pack an Allen keys. I'm going to pack this. I'm going to pack that. I'm going to pack, like, before you know it, I've got a 20 kg pack on my back because I'm a what if guy.
That's me.
And so what I am trying to do now is eliminate complicating my hunts by downscaling the amount of junk I take. So trigger, rangefinder, binos, bow. And then if I'm filming, then I have to take a backpack because I've got the drone in the back, the cameras, the batteries, all that kind of stuff. But on this last hunt where I was working, it was quite nice. I just had a trigger in my pocket, binos on my chest, rangefinder, and a bow, and just go for it.
What kind of release are you using?
A release is a sore topic at the moment. I didn't replace a release. I had the same release from that Bowtech fuel I spoke about earlier. It was a true ball rave. So like a very basic thumb release. You could adjust tension and travel. So it had a lot of functionality, but it's a very basic release. And that came with my beginner bow 5 years ago, and I haven't touched a new release since. I was just like, I can't find it in me to buy something that does the exact same job.
Right.
And literally before this bucket list hunt that's going to go live in the next couple of weeks that you've been following, that Roland Ward animal that I shot and all that kind of stuff, I decided like it's time to explore. If I'm going to be giving guys advice, I need to be playing around with a couple of things. And so I picked myself up a Stan 1X clicker, which is quite a nice, thumb release. That thing was, there we go. Thank you very much.
I just bought one.
And what happened?
I love it. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I actually bought the green and black one. So it's like your 1X clicker standard. And 7 days later on that bucket list hunt, we're doing a photo shoot. We structured our day. Day one, we meet the owner. He takes us through the entire property and we just understand what his goals are. And that afternoon, we finished early. So I said to my photographer, videographer, I said, why don't we go do the photo shoot? Let me gear up, paint my face, everything. Let's go get some banger photos. And then we don't have to bother with any of that when we actually hunt him and dilute the hunting experience. And during that session, we come across impala and blessbuck. So we're like, imagine if we get a blessbuck or impala before we even supposed to. Like, this could be awesome. And we stalk for the next 3 hours. We get super close. I pull the bow back, I anchor, and it runs. I let down the bow, I put it in my pocket, and we carry on the stalk for about 100 yards. We get 65 yards. I'm about to smoke this blessbuck and knock the arrow, and I start just touching my pockets, and I'm patting myself down, and I realize this thing's gone. So not only have we lost the animal, but we've lost this trigger. And it really doesn't help that the landscape is only made up of 2 colors because they've had so much rain, which is dark black soil or lush green grass. And the trigger is black on the one side and it's green on the other side. And so we actually called, now that he's become a client of ours and we can hunt at that property so much, that mountain is called Stan Mountain.
That's awesome.
So to answer your question, I literally went straight back to Magnum, and Seppi hooked me up with another Stan 1X clicker, but that heavy metal one. So it's that bronze gold looking one. What's quite nice is the gold was a bit hectic, but it's actually aged through sweat and all that kind of stuff. So it's dulled down a bit. And I actually really like the weight. It's a heavier release and I quite like it.
Mm. And you said, like, you've all this camera gear and drones and stuff. Do you hire a photographer or do you have all your own camera gear? How does that work?
So my YouTube journey was quite easy to pivot into because obviously I was on the side doing marketing for other businesses as well as the company I was working for. And I was doing wedding videos on the weekends to make some extra cash. or wedding photography and videography. So pivoting to this was very easy. I had all the gear already. I'd bought the expensive cameras and the lenses and all that. But YouTube has forced me to invest in even more gear or better gear, like wireless mics, so you don't have cables in the
Yeah.
bush,
Yeah.
and a 150 to 500 telephoto lens, so I can punch in on those animals at 300 yards out, so we can get some decent footage for a video. And the drone was a recent one because for making a video for an international client, it's quite important to get a variety of shots, and sometimes setting the scene or setting the location or just heightening the quality of the storytelling, a drone is just imperative. And then I've also found it to be very, very helpful in hunting scenarios. If you're looking for a downed animal, or anything like that, you can just flip the drone up, fly it for 20 minutes, get some crucial information, bring it back down, pack it in, and you carry on your mission.
That's awesome. So what kind of what brand of camera gear are you using? You a Canon guy? You a Sony guy?
So similar to bows and even to guns, I'm not really a name brand kind of guy. If it gets the job done, it gets the job done.
Yep.
I'm running the Sony A7 IV at the moment. So obviously you got 4K in S-Log 3, which is pretty much raw, up to 60 frames, and then you got S-Log 3 in 120 frames, but at 1080p in the SNQ mode. So it kind of it covers all my bases. It's great when it's super bright, and it's good in low light scenarios. And one thing that works for me is that it's completely aluminum build, and it's weatherproof. So when I go to do survival videos on my own, I'm in the rain, I'm in the mud, I'm in the dirt, and I'm in the camera right now needs a good clean because I just came back from a hunt, and it just seems to handle the elements quite well. So for me, it's working now. When it comes to photography and being an experienced photographer, I really did enjoy my Canon more. I enjoyed the colors and what I could do with the raws. But for video, I found the Sony, not even for video, just for the fact that I'm hunting, I'm in very rough places with a camera and technology. I just find the Sony's working for me. And I just don't have it in me to go and buy something that does a similar job for stupid amounts of money.
Yeah, I was running a Nikon for a while, and then I set it up on the tripod to film some shots of me shooting some arrows up at the camp I was at, and the tripod, I had it on one of the legs, the clasp for the legs was broken, and I watched the whole thing fall over and the screen snapped off. So that was the end of that. And
gut-wrenching.
I had to and it's amazing how fast cameras will improve over a short period of time, right? I go to try and look for the one that I like just to replace it, and I remember calling one camera shop and they're like, "Why do you want that? That one's 2 years old." I'm like, "Yeah, it's only 2 years old." So I ended up going to Canon and loved it because it was, like you said, the colors are just outstanding, right? And the video.
No, I must say I do miss my Canon. I don't have it. I don't know why, but I find Canon is very user friendly. Very, very few things, and then it's just ready to go, and you're getting some beautiful shots. The Sony, I mean, I actually recently had to reset this completely, like factory reset it because it was glitching on me. And I had to go watch videos that I hadn't watched for 3 years on how to like set the most basic things that I'd forgotten how to do. So it definitely is. I think the Sony is a bit more for the filmmaking kind of person versus running and gunning. I think that, any half decent R series single digit like the R6, R7s and all that kind of stuff are going to get the job done for the guys that don't want to dive into the nitty and gritties of camera stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Do you guys sell any primes at the shop? Have you seen the new prime form?
So the problem with Prime is there's just zero traction in South Africa. Magnum actually has the agency for it. So if anyone wants a Prime, we can ship it in and they can buy it from Magnum. But the support, I mean, why guys buy bows is to understand that its resale value is also quite good. So when they want to upgrade, they can. And Prime has a reputation in South Africa of struggling to resell. And then that comes full circle of guys not buying Prime in the first place. And so, there's no support for it. I'd love to try them out. I've never shot a Prime in my life. So I'd love to give them a go, but there's no support in South Africa.
So is it Hoyt? Is it like the top Hoyt PSE Elite.
So I've actually been having a debate with a lot of guys recently, but I can directly correlate brand success with the influencers that they partnered with, guaranteed. And I don't know why the big guys aren't catching on to this, but and I mean this is a public platform, so I must be very careful. But I'm looking at sales of PSE, and I know the Mark 30 probably got bow of the year or something like that, and all that. But if I look at the landscape of South Africa, which is heavily influenced by overseas influencers, you are literally seeing Hoyts and Matthews. That is the bows that everyone is buying and shooting. And then you ask yourself why. And then I go into their marketing strategies, and I go into who they partnered with, and I go on the brand strategy and what they, from my marketing experience, I'm going on what are they selling their customer. And either they just selling the bow, which is nowadays is not good enough. What story are you telling? Who do you support? What do I stand for when I buy the product? And who am I like when I buy the product? And then two is the influencers themselves. So get long story short, I see a massive decrease in sales on the PSE side. And then I can simply answer the question in saying, who are they partnered with? And I'm not a competition guy at all. I don't shoot competitively. I don't get involved in shooting competitively. I hunt, and I hunt as much as possible. So I don't know a single person that's really partnered with PSE since, John Dudley left.
Right.
So who is influencing the new market coming up, the young guys, the people that are watching the YouTube videos and getting influenced, who's watching and saying, I want a PSE? And apart from Pedro, who does those independent films with QU, I don't know anyone on YouTube that is like sponsored by PSE and selling the brand in terms of through their messaging and through, the way they live and that kind of stuff. And then the same thing with Elite. I think Elite is a fantastic brand. I freaking love their bows. But I don't know many dudes that are making some good quality hunting films and hunting videos and promoting a lifestyle around archery that are working hand in hand with Elite. But then if I mention Hoyt or if I mention Matthews, me and you could spitball some very big names, and we can pretty much tell you who they are, what they like, what they stand for, and what kind of people they are just from their content. And then you can see the groups of people that resonate with those kinds of people. Hoyt, I think they're really good at selling the lifestyle, hardworking, gritty, and just being like a badass dude, like being a man, going back to being men. And and then you go look at who they partnered with: Jocko Willink, Cameron Haynes, John Dudley's back there, is a competitive archer, but now he's in the YouTube space. And then you go look at Matthews, and you got the Levi Morgans and the Chris B's, super influential, large followings. And then you ask yourself, why are those two brands dominating the market? Well, the brands have understood that the people don't listen to the brand. They listen to the people that trust in the brand, and that's your influencers. Yeah, no one's going to buy the bow because you released a spec sheet saying it's 15 feet faster. But MFJJ comes out, Cameron Haynes comes out, Levi Morgan comes out, and they spitball some things that they like about the bow. That holds weight.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I first got into bow hunting, I Googled bow hunting. I got Cameron Haynes popped up and Tim Burnett from Solo Hunter. So I started watching Solo Hunter, and Remy Warren was on Solo Hunter years ago.
Awesome.
And I wanted a prime because I was watching their show and that's what they shot, right? But there's no prime dealer around here. So I go into the local bow shop, and the marketing gets you every year, right? It's either it's going to be a Hoyt or it's going to be a Matthews or what. Like everybody starts putting their content out, and you just want that bow, right? So I walked into the shop and I picked up I think it was the Matthews Vertex at the time, and I wasn't a huge fan of the grip and the grip angle. And then I felt it was kind of top heavy, so I put it down and I picked up the Hoyt, and it just sank into my hand perfectly. And that's why I went with that. But yeah, it's amazing how we can really be influenced by the people that we watch and look up to, and how they could, because as soon as a prime dealer opened up like an hour away, I drove down there and I bought one.
Yeah. No, it's the days of brands putting out content and thinking that converts directly into sales. I mean, I guess it does for the guys that already know the brand, like us. We know Hoyt, we know Matthews, we know all the brands. We know if they're going to put out a bow, it's going to be decent. But for the guys that are not so intertwined with the industry and they just shoot, I mean, you're going to listen to the people that you, somewhat inverted commas trust, which is your influencers.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your, this could be a deep, dark rabbit hole, but what are your thoughts on social media? I know there's like, I love it for some things and I hate it for others. Like you and I would not be connecting right now if it wasn't for social media. But what are your
Exactly.
thoughts on that?
Give me 2 seconds. I see a power light coming up on this laptop.
Okay.
Ha, there we go. You never know in South Africa. It could either be load shedding, the government turned off the power, it could be the plug off, it could be something. You just don't know. It's a luck of the draw.
Surprise.
I've got a very positive outlook on social media. I really it gets a lot of clout or hate because of negativity and all that kind of stuff. But I think social media is exactly what you make of it, and algorithms have gotten so good that you are only getting fed the stuff that you are showing interest in or watching for long hours or minutes at a time. So, if you don't like something, don't follow them. If something offends you, if it came across your page, it's because you've been engaging with it. I think it's a great connectivity tool. It's a great sharing tool. I mean, I set out on a journey of not studying marketing or brand strategy. Everything I know is either through collaboration, learning from people, learning under people, growing under people, or mostly YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, right down to photography and videography, everything I know and everything I've done over the last 7-8 years has been because of YouTube. So I honestly love social media, and I think it is what you make it.
Are you one to read the comments of your videos on YouTube and respond to people, or?
I I actually think I took my giraffe video off. So my very, very, very first YouTube video that went up on my channel that was just Travis Sloan back in the day was a giraffe hunt with a good friend of mine with a lever action rifle. He shot, and I took him with and filmed and everything. And those were early days. This is Travis 2021. And every bad comment got a very nasty comment from me as well. And yeah, what's Newton's law? Every action needs an opposite and equal reaction. That was me on every comment. I matched tone and I replied. But that's not me anymore, to be honest. If I'm in a place, I don't know if you know Gary V very well. Gary Vaynerchuk, big media guy, marketing guy, does a lot of motivational talks.
Yeah.
And so he's got this idea that when someone hates on you from halfway across the world through a comment, and they don't even know who you are, what you're about, what you've gone through, they are losing. They've got something going on in their life that they haven't dealt with and they're not prepared to deal with. And so their outlet is shitting on someone they don't know halfway across the world. And if you can look at it like that way, you can actually come from a point of empathy. Like, dude, I would never have it in me to talk shit to someone, even if I think they're wrong or giving the wrong information. I just don't see it my place to go correct someone. And if people do feel like that, then I think they've got something going on in their lives that they haven't dealt with, or there's a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and they want to pass that on and inflict it. So I've got a rule. If it's negative, I completely ignore it. If it's really negative, I delete it because I don't want it to be in my face all the time. And then everyone that shows me support, I've been really bad. Starting the business and Magnum and all that kind of stuff, I've been very bad. But I have a rule of, while I'm small, trying to reply to every single comment, because those guys have taken the time not only to watch but engage with me. So I do try my best to get to those comments and reply and thank and all that kind of stuff. But general rule of thumb is don't engage in the hate, because you're just bringing yourself down to that level. And I do YouTube because it's the two things I absolutely love in one: filmmaking and bow hunting, or doing anything archery related. So why would I want to dampen that experience by engaging with someone that is only going to escalate? We are only going to argue more and have more opinions and have more. And the way I said is, this guy or girl watches maybe 20 videos. He forgets he's even commented to me. I delete it. He'll never even know I deleted it, and he'll never engage with me again. So win-win. But go and engage with it. It can turn into a 20 comment scroll of us going back and forth. and no one's going to win that.
Yeah. No, I do the same. I like to try to get back to everybody, and if it's really bad, I'll delete it. But some of them that are, being these keyboard warriors, I'll just kill them with kindness, and eventually just say thanks for watching. It just because it just bothers them even more, and it does, like you said, it doesn't make sense to kind of drop down to their level. But anyway,
I don't normally listen to comments, especially the bad ones, but something that's come up and it's like a red flag. It's the it's only short on YouTube that's hit 1 million views now on my channel. And it's a crossbow video. I've only done one short crossbow video and one crossbow review. And that crossbow short has got 1 million views, and it
wow.
is filled with hate. It is just real men shoot a bow, and this is what I'm saying. Like, guys make comments on such little information. Like, they think they watch this 30-second clip of me shooting a golf tee at 80 yards with a crossbow because I happened to be doing a crossbow review and I thought that's a cool short. And they just think like I'm the biggest bitch. I shoot crossbows. That's all I do. I'm the crossbow guy. I'm like, dude, if you just clicked Outdoors with Travis and checked every other video and every other short, you would know that I'm like the biggest like bow hunter there is. And so yeah, that's YouTube. But I have learned, and I even told Seppi, like, I will never do a crossbow video again. Like, it just doesn't resonate with my audience. We are bow hunters, mostly compound archers or survival enthusiasts, the guys that have caught me on my survival videos, and we're going to stay in that realm, which is what I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, we're getting to about an hour here. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
100%. So YouTube and Instagram, Outdoors with Travis. I'm not very active on Facebook. It's just Travis Sloan on Facebook. We're busy building the website for Out Media, which is going to be, a branch of Outdoors with Travis, but now focusing on the media side of things, doing videos and all that kind of stuff for clients, brand strategy, but mostly in the outdoor space, which is going to be quite fun. But essentially, I'm most active, or I will be from December, most active on YouTube again. That's where you can catch videos, opinions, reviews, hunts, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on. And I know we have a bit of a time gap, so thanks for adjusting it for me.
No, well, for me, it was just going from midday to 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, originally I was like, 4:30 in the morning's not that bad. And then I've been sick for the last week, so I thought maybe a couple hours of sleep will do me some good. But anyway.
I definitely agree.
All right. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
Brother, thank you. I really appreciate you.
You too. Thanks.